there's the idea that everyone has experiences within their life that they need to experience. And so some people who like to experience negativity within their life will attract that to them. Okay? And so there's going to be someone within the creation who's going to provide that for them. All right? And that is still... All right, here's an excellent example. This is great. So this goes into the astrological aspect. There's a book called The Greatness of Saturn, which is an astrological text about the planet Saturn and how he mangles people's lives, essentially. Okay? And the reason he does this is, again, to cut out the negative ego from the person. And so in this story, what happens is this king, he brings all these pundits together, and he's asking them, who is the best? Who is the best of all the planets, of all the gods? And so each pundit comes up and they say, well, the moon is best because of this, Mars is best because of this, and so on. And they come up and they talk about Saturn. And Saturn's description is extremely cruel. He's considered maha krura, or mega cruel. And so after the pundits have all said what's going on, King Vikramaditya is sitting there, and he's just thinking to himself, Saturn, what a terrible god, what a terrible planet, if he torments his own parents, if he's the reason that Ganesh has an elephant head, okay? Because Ganesh's mom wanted to show Ganesh to Saturn, and Saturn said, you probably don't want to do that, please don't. And the mother became upset, and so she said, please, no, you have to look at him. So Saturn just looked at him out of one eye, and Ganesh's head just vaporized. Okay, so then they had to go and find an elephant, and put Ganesh's head on. But anyway, the point being, this is what Saturn does. And so then it just so happens that as King Vikramaditya is thinking about this, Saturn's passing overhead in his aerial cart and hears this insult. And so he promptly comes down and says, oh my, you've insulted me. Watch out. And so what happens during the 7.5-year period is that first off, the king gets his feet and his wrists is severed. So he has no hands, no feet. Next thing, he gets accused of stealing. He's put to work on an oil mill for many years. That's all he's doing, is just running horses around to grind up this oil. And so all these people do these things to him, accuse him of these things. And then once Saturn's done with whatever he's doing, all these people come back to apologize to the king. And the king says, it's not your fault. All that you have done is provide a vehicle for Saturn's expression in my life. And so he sees that this negativity within his life was not the fault of any of these other people. It was because they had this state within them. All right. So if you have a negative state within you, by God, someone's going to provide you an experience for that negativity to come out. Okay.
He had the negative state within him.
Anyone. I'm talking. This is an example of anyone's experience in life. So these negative things occur. Again, I don't want to necessarily get into karma or why do bad things happen to good people, because that'll take you nowhere. So yes. What I recommend, this is my experience, what I do is I look at these negative things and see it as just as an expression of God within this material world, where the gunas playing themselves out. All right, and you want to get out of that negative expression. So what you're doing is you're practicing meditation and yoga practice, so you no longer have those triggers, you no longer have those experiences within you to come out within the world. Okay? All right, so just sit with that for a while, and if that comes up as more questions, we'll go from there. All right, next question. Let's see. So, are there any guidelines or methods for making a leap of faith from one personal reality to another, or letting go of a limiting reality to be, for instance, more open, and more self-confident, and less controlling, more loving, more open to wealth, be healed of illness, etc.? All right, this is the question of, well, it's a very important question. So here's the first thing to consider. Everything that you experience in your life is because you have in the past put into play these actions. So you might remember, I don't think I have any more copies of it here, but the story or the dialogue between the guru and the disciple. And the disciple said, so are we to be bound by our fate? And what the guru says is, no. I want your free will to be so strong that your fate is annihilated. And what he says is that fate is simply the accumulation of past free will, of past actions. So if you're consistently experiencing negativity in one area of your life, it's because before then, your states of consciousness, the thoughts that you have thought and so on, have contributed to them. All right? And so the way that you change those is right now, you decide you're not going to think that way anymore. And as I've said before, when you're making a change like that, it often feels fake as hell. All right? Because you're experiencing this negativity over and over again, and you're trying to tell yourself, no, I'm happy, I'm positive, I'm in good relationships, I'm making more money, all these sorts of things, but your reality is not showing that to be the case. But then if you really pay attention to what you're thinking and what you're feeling when you are experiencing that negativity, more often than not, I can promise you, you have a negative loop going on in your head in some way or shape or form. And so you have to do whatever it takes to get that out. And that can be anything. Sometimes I will sit down and I will just emote and express and talk to God and say, look, I keep thinking this way, and I will get very verbal about it until I can change it. And then when I'm in my daily life and I'm thinking about my business, just for example, and it's not going the way I like, and I notice these negative trains, these negative thoughts, I tell myself, knock it off. I don't care if I've thought about that way in the past. I'm going to think differently now. And again, it feels difficult and it feels fake, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So whatever you're experiencing right now, just decide you are not going to think or feel that way anymore. And then start acting, pretending that you are feeling a different way. And do it until it becomes just as natural as the negative state that you are experiencing. Okay? That's all I can say about that. That's the only thing that really works. And the meditation helps because you're able to pull back and, again, disidentify from these things that you're attaching yourself to. And the more you can do that, the easier it becomes. That is why meditation is so important in that way. Who you think you are is really just who you think you are. All right? And it becomes solid within your mind because you've told yourself that over and over and over and over and over again. All right? And if you're identified with who you think you are, then it's going to be painful to change that. But if you want to experience something different, you have to think, feel, and do things differently. And we're going to conclude with a great quote. There's nothing wrong with you that changing yourself completely wouldn't fix. Okay? So if you're having problems, it's as simple as that. There's nothing wrong with you that changing yourself completely wouldn't fix.